Molten Earth. And then all of that debris, all of that debris, it's slowly cooled and formed together and is now the moon. And it's slowly moving further away from us, so get it what you can.
That is very cool. New Paradigm now playing Ryan Goat, slightly less cool, but what is really amazing is PHOENiX looking at this bunker composition, Vendetta on the Widow, victorious on the Junkrat, and once again, looking at the Junkrat damage, how fast does he get the tire?
Hasn't got too much out yet, and that's really unfortunate when he saw that Hulk coming through.
Oh,
it's an opportunity.
It's a space flank.
Damage. And yeah, this is great because it just avoids so much potential displacement and damage.
And in space, no one can hear Goat scream, because we all know that animal does make that noise.
Oh, it really does. It's terrifying.
We should be seeing a decent amount of damage coming through. 44% for Victorious.
All I can think of now is that remix of Taylor Swift's Trouble. But speaking of In Trouble, New Paradigm haven't really got the good angle in despite getting the good flank. The rest of that tire charged up without even having a good opportunity to land it on anyone.
Not even
Bit of a waste, unfortunately, but hey, all's well that ends well. They take the fight.
I would actually argue it ends up not being a waste. Clean headshot from Vendetta. And the reason for that is, preferably, you would like your members to find the kills anyway, and that's exactly what happened. The only waste here is, maybe you could say, oh, he didn't need to use it, but if you get a tire that quickly, most of the members of New Paradigm are still alive. He was going to use it just for, I would say, safety. It's a pretty natural thing to do. I would also say, up against a Ryan Ghost, he can charge another one very quickly. Watch his ult charge again.
Hasn't quite been able to find the headshots on the ideal members. Really looking for Froppy and Ref when you're fishing for those, but you're happy to just set up an Emperor site. Same slow flank from New Paradigm.
I want to see Victorious play some traps on the exit here to get some early damage, because otherwise New Paradigm's going to walk through for free. Unknown super low.
And it is just so peaceful out there. This time Victorious not quite so fast on the ult charge. The Emperor site not the highest of impact tools here. And PHOENiX don't really have anything much else. They're waiting for a supercharge in. They're unable to really contest the point directly for quite a while until they got maybe an ultimate to throw in.
2 ticks nearly.
It's 2 ticks like you said, and it could just be, that's a nice catch on Froppy and Ironed as well. Vendetta's going to make this happen single-handedly if he must. And that has opened the door for Pabu to get onto the point and connect. And this is actually decent for PHOENiX as well. As much as they gave up those 2 ticks, they now will be coming into ultimates that they can use so much more directly affect the point in the next fight. By the way, that is 4 for Vendetta.
I was going to say as well, PHOENiX really need to force the issue here because New Paradigm are collecting progress onto this cap itself, and Vendetta on the Widow doesn't have high value until you get a brawl started. You need Chaos to really form on top of the point. Otherwise, Shield's going to be pointed in Vendetta's general direction, and he's not going to get any damage in there. As soon as the fight was really started by PHOENiX, then Vendetta found his double.
Now you got that Rip Tire coming up soon for Victorious. Got the Supercharger on Melon.
Got all 4 of the others.
Boost as well. That's one of the bigger ones actually for just allowing someone to get on the point if you desperately need it. New Paradigm taking the same slow flank as well.
I think the tire should be looking to come through just about now as well.
So
you're in a sort of place where New Paradigm, you know exactly where the flank's coming through. This is 3 out of 3 push attempts. Damage slowly coming through. Victorious just waiting for the tire moment.
Look at that, rallied around from the side, right onto 3 members. Absolutely disgusting angle. And that's only 1 ultimate. New Paradigm, because they've taken the same slow flank each and every time, and now really sore on the clock.
You can see the position from Victorious as well, hiding underneath the stairs. If you're New Paradigm, you don't quite know where the tire is coming from because you don't spot the Junkrat until it's too late. You don't see the tire until it's too late.
So quick.
And then it catches all 3 of you who is waiting for the right moment, and he's got time to make that position change because of how long it takes to flank.
Oh, absolutely disgusting.
Gotta check the traps.
Already off to a really poor start on what is undoubtedly their final approach here.
And they need Ref because he's got the Transcendence. There's not time to wait for him. And they gotta make the push.
There's such a long flank again to go for. Froppy's already dead. Teto just dives down the middle. Has to try and exchange that mech. Another tire out in the moon. Frost, by the time he lands down back on the surface of the moon, and as to say nothing of being killed, there was no way they were getting back onto that. That long flank. Not enough time for it at the end, and it had already been such a time waster before that.
But I think that's a symptom of the greater problem, which is the fact that they decided to play Ryan Goats into a Junkrat after the first push. There's a couple ways to look at this. One, you go and look at the defense, scout it early, even when you just push through. By the way, take a look at some of the shots Vendetta made just a little bit early on.
Onto Ref.
The point I do want to make here is you have a sort of scenario, once you've spotted out the Junkrat defense, you can choose to go back to spawn, change up your entire composition onto a dive, onto something else that plays much better against Victorious's Junkrat, against the bunker composition. They didn't choose to do that. Because they didn't, they go into push a 2, 3, 4, building up ultimates in a sort of scenario where now it's too late to change. Now you have to play with what you've been given, because if you change now, you lose these very hard-earned ultimates.
Got to make a slight correction to myself as well. It was actually 5 kills in that fight just off the Widowmaker when you include getting the pilot form Tito, that really slick headshot right at the end. And I mean, that was all they had to go off in that fight. I actually think that could have been where New Paradigm could have won it otherwise. So now, with the shoe on the other foot, New Paradigm going to similarly pull out the bunker composition, exactly the same makeup here. It's going to be on PHOENiX to try and break what they had themselves just played.
And I want to see PHOENiX here really scout out their defense and make some decisions, because right now, this sort of composition with Melon on the Wrecking Ball here on the Hammond, they can aggress that high ground very, very well. Changing onto what is currently going to be a Rhine Goats with power on the Hog. Oh, no. Very long, though. This is where I want to see the adaptation. When they see the Junkrat, they should make either one attempt and then swap if they fail, or swap right away.
There is still the opportunity to get that one blowout fight before anything is
Don't take the chance.
That's the thing, it's...
This is discipline.
They're not going to
exactly the discipline you want to see out of a team like PHOENiX, going onto a classic dive, Winston Beaver, Tracer Genji, with the Lucio Zenyatta supports. Brings me back to 2017. Exactly. It was a really good era, I want to say, of Overwatch. Now going into this defense, no one has really good charge yet. They just have to watch out for Unknown and the Widow. If they can get past the Widow, they're clear skies.
I'm almost half tempted to start calling this the nostalgia comp at this point. Torius taking a slow flank, looking for a setup.
Good pressure on the point.
Did get spotted out on the approach though, but now as Tito moves down to low ground, he'll take some shots for it. Melon just stuck in a trap for a bit too long there. Pogu as well going to get demexed. That is actually the first attempt rebuffed for the time being.
That is a kill though. That's 2. That's massive. It's 2-4-2, which
is victorious. This is huge. Suddenly this has completely turned things around.
That's more.
Despite the good pressure on the tanks. It's almost like New Paradigm forgot to deal with dive. You actually need to kill DPSs. It's not goats where you can just kill tanks and call it a day. And I think off the back of that, off a stellar 3K, plus the one from Bentelda prior to that to open it up, PHOENiX have actually just secured themselves a win, 3-0.
And before he got that massive string of kills, I was going to say, even if he had just made the 2-for-2 trade, that goes in favor of the attackers with the closer respawns as well. And a very smart move to begin with by pressuring the point itself as the Tracer player. He forces attention away from the defense such that the rest of the team with the Winstons, with the Genjis can make their dive on. He's got people turning around for him, and it's sort of a difficult position for the defenders in New Paradigm. Are they meant to respond to the point? Are they meant to defend against the dive? Difficult choices to make, and with great difficulty comes, unfortunately for them, a loss, and PHOENiX are going to clean that up. 3-0. Horizon Lunar Colony, easily the most dominant map of the 3.
I mean, that was incredible. I mean, it's not just the first hold there, as we saw. I mean, the way that all played out, and I feel like that's kind of a twofer, right? PHOENiX themselves had a good defense. They rotated very cleanly. And the first fight, which was the most dangerous, they won off a very impressive string of kills. But also New Paradigm did feel like they kind of helped dig their own grave there a little. They certainly didn't do themselves any favors. Like you said, a symptom of a wider problem with those slow approaches. And then PHOENiX not demonstrating that same problem by having the discipline to make that change, play something that was going to be more effective, and then execute it extremely well. There is no two ways about it. On all fronts, PHOENiX were just better.
And they certainly thought about it better too, just on top of the macro game and the decision making. The fact that it ended up being only a 1 attempt on the push, it looked like it got rebuffed. It looked like the kills were there, Melon got stuck in a trap.
And even then, they would have still had another 3.5 minutes to work with.
Yeah, and they would have had a sort of scenario where, you know, maybe they get a couple of trades off the Tracer as well, and then they get to come back with a potential player advantage. Dive moves very quickly, certainly quicker than the defense in that scenario could reinforce. And it's just in... You know, the situation just gets worse and worse for the defense. Unknown on the Widowmaker probably had to be the difference maker in my eyes. That or is probably going to come out of the Zenyatta. But you need to find the quick headshots, the quick kills, the very quick advantages, because you do have the more stable setup in terms of that defense. Still very hard to dive into. You don't necessarily want to jump into traps and mines and all sorts of difficult things, bio nades as well. But you need the player advantage. The Widowmaker is the key pick there up against Dive. The Junkrat is the key pick up against a Goats composition. And we saw what happened there. When it was Goats, the Junkrat was doing a lot of work. But when it's going up against Dive, it needs to be the Widowmaker, and Unknown just didn't click the heads.
And the thing is as well, the Junkrat needs to get like a double mind kill on some kind of DPS, some squishy member. That's really the most value you're going to get out of it. And it is still extremely possible to do that, don't get me wrong, but that's the thing, it wasn't that. It wasn't the Widowmaker, and at the end of it all, it just wasn't anything at all. So that is now secured, and actually, we could now see our second team on the same night in a row actually secure a 4-0 victory.
Yeah.
PHOENiX is certainly heading in that direction now as we move on to Escort, having already won Numbani with, after having a slow point A cap, a very, very quick run through the rest of the map to actually fully cap out. Also having that decent hold towards the end to be able to hold and set themselves up for that win at the end there. I mean, I honestly have to say, all things do appear to favor them as we move forward into Escort.
That's certainly the case, and I did not expect this to already be a 3-0 for PHOENiX. I would have, even if you pinned PHOENiX to be the stronger team here on paper, maybe they win. It's probably a 3-1. In fact, it might still be a 3-1. It might be a 3-2. We can't see that 3-2 result anymore. Map number 4 going to be revealed now. It is going to be Route 66, and it will be an opportunity for New Paradigm to maybe take a map here and, still importantly for them, put themselves in a scenario where they can play for a potential tiebreaker, but they need to collect maps. Every single map for them does count.
That's the thing that's going to be really tough about this. I think one of the most interesting things about all this is actually in the standings prior to this matchup, PHOENiX were technically lower down because of the map differential. Winning this when you're the lowest seeded team, it's kind of got this twofold effect, right? Not only is it good news for PHOENiX, who I believe have the easier matchup tomorrow as well, if I'm not mistaken. They'll be going on to play Giants. They're kind of well poised to maybe pick up a win there, especially if they're able to pick this one up. On the other side of that, you got New Paradigm, who are more than likely to cop a loss at this rate against GE Pantheon unless things seriously change. But the thing it actually does is it increases the security for the other teams in the middle of that pack there, being GE Pantheon and Cyclone Coupling.
Certainly a do-or-die scenario for PHOENiX, or rather for New Paradigm, that does not get easier. Considering also that GE Pantheon already did beat PHOENiX in week number 2. New Paradigm having now officially lost to a team that lost to GE Pantheon, their next week's opponents. This map is still important though. PHOENiX defending the Rhine Goats versus DPSs as far as Sombra.
This ought to be a decent one for New Paradigm if they can get the spam damage in, and indeed they can. Those are two very ideal picks. It's going to be a pretty quick cleanup now. You already see some of the members of PHOENiX just kind of heading for the hills here, trying to turn tail as best as they can. So, good start for New Paradigm.
And it would be preferable to go off the edge here instead of feeding a bunch of ultimate charge. And PHOENiX know it. They're going to change onto now Melon onto the Winston. Vendetta, importantly, going to be playing in the McCree. And it's going to be the Bashbang combo here. A lot of changes overall. 4 members had to change. There's not a huge amount of ultimates online. Well, there's no ultimates online, and not a huge amount of charge online for Paradigm just yet.
This does put so much more pressure onto Eind and Froppy both, so you can already see they kind of have to change things up, but it's on Unknown to alleviate that pressure, and it's hard for him to do that. So, if PHOENiX can get a kill here early, they can stop up the part. They can still start to set up a defense here, but struggling to finish off Eind in this situation.
Oh, nearly got the kill onto Frosty if they just landed the shield bash as well. Vendetta's making his way up towards the Deadeye, but it's taken a while.
Oh, that was really huge. For just the briefest of moments, Eind was able to directly challenge Vendetta, and based on the shots connected there, they were able to clean him up. Suddenly, PHOENiX don't really have much to stand on this defense, and you see that represented now. New Paradigm, they've continued to push forward this whole time. This is a big commit from PHOENiX. They actually want to stay in this with the sound barrier, and Eind has played very conservative with this barrage barrage.
PHOENiX need to stay in here because if they don't, they lose this cap entirely. They're working up to Deadeye. It is being used.
Ooh, that's huge. Takes Ein out of the skies with that barrage available. Vendetta getting healed up as well. Just the touch, and suddenly they're able to start to re-challenge. Froppy does get the res on Ein, who's still going to be looking for a barrage, but it's going to be much harder this time, and Vendetta's already got his number. Unknown waiting for an EMP, but he can't commit it now. There will be no follow-up.
And this time there's no resurrection available either. Unknown's looking for positioning here. Important to note, Ilsubi and Paisel do not have support ultimates. They have to wait for ult, they have to wait for the rally to build up some armor that will alleviate some damage, but will it be enough? The EMP is super effective.
Oh man, look at that. Unknown's just giving them the slip, just barely. Now wraps back around. They know that he's somewhere there.
They can't take too long. Look at the split here as well. PHOENiX, they've actually split their team kind of in half, which means if part of this unit does get EMP, the others don't. That's a decent adaptation from PHOENiX, but they still need to be very wary of this flashbang.
Oh, that is disgusting. And it makes it so much harder to get this follow-up. Ein finds one before finally taking too many shots from Vendetta.
Oh,
Froppy will not go back in for a res. Unknown gets flashbanged, headshot out of the picture. The Deadeye finds Teto. Vendetta's on a roll here. Look at this man go.
He knows it's a highlight reel. He knows this one is going to get posted. And for PHOENiX right now, it all started with a miracle flashbang. It started with that bash.
That had it all. That had it all. It shut down the rocket barrage. It shut down the res. A Deadeye kill, a flashbang headshot, and a fan the hammer.
And it shut down the EMP. Most importantly, Unknown got spotted. He immediately uncloaks, tries to use the ultimate, instantly stunned out, instantly shut down.
Vendetta now just hitting his stride. He is in his element. And that element apparently is red rock and sand. PHOENiX now continuing this defense. They've got good defensive tools to rotate into. You cannot say the same for Froppy and Ref. Vendetta finding a wraparound now. We're going to get some pressure out. Self-destruct board creates some space. This is a decent dive from New Paradigm, but it's now become an overextension because actually Vendetta wasn't with the team at all, and that's the fish that they're really trying to catch there. There's Vendetta finding Ein now. Tato going to start taking some shots himself, has to turn tail and run, but with only 6 seconds remaining, he does not want to get a late D-Mech here.
And he's about to head into another Deadeye, and the D-Mech for Teto all but inevitable. As the point
to it.
Completely is avoided, or they just don't get there in time for New Paradigm. That all went so sour, so quick, but in the most impressive of ways, and this is why I miss DPS, man, so much. You get to see the absolutely most disgusting performances out of certain players, and Vendetta has been waiting for his time to shine. Right now, he is absolutely glowing.
I mean, hey man, one man's shutout is another man's highlight reel. At least in this case, Vendetta will get to add that one to the portfolio. Now it's going to be on the offense. PHOENiX, they only need to not even fully cap out A. It's so similar to what they had already set up for themselves just being on Horizon Lunar Colony.
And I want to say this is a huge turnaround for Numbani. Despite winning Numbani, they nearly did not cap A themselves. New Paradigm nearly completed that hold, and now potentially twice, in fact, definitely twice in a row, PHOENiX have held A against New Paradigm. Now it just comes down to whether they can cap or not. But you've got to say at this rate, looking at the distance required, looking at the time remaining, looking at the position that is presented to us into this game, it should all but be a formality for PHOENiX to close out the series in a 4-0.
As we always say, whenever we go to a break, when one team is 2-0 up, one of two things happens. Either the team that is 0-2 down really kind of pulls their socks up, turns a new leaf, comes back in looking more competitive and takes the map up, or the team that's 2-0 up absolutely accelerates.
Accelerating is exactly what they're looking to do here with this payload. I don't want to waste too much time at all. It's going to be the Ryan Goats to start things out with, up against the Winston Goats.
I like this. New Paradigm, they do have a bit of earlier pressure, but eventually that Reinhardt, that Earthshatter will start to turn the tides here unless things go horribly wrong for PHOENiX, which I don't expect they will.
And New Paradigm need to approach quickly here. They can't allow too much cart movement. They have the early dive pressure. They have the early damage pressure as well.
Frost goes in, but a fraction of a hair too early. Takes a beating, has to pull back out. The cart just continues pushing.
I can't waste too much. The bubble's already been used, I want to say, by both sides. Frost already on half HP.
And again, just so much pressure on the Winston. So actually, the only forward pressure that New Paradigm could be exerting here is getting shut down.
Cuts moving forward. Tito's already demech. This is going horribly for New Paradigm.
On it. This is so tough. Tito out of the mix. Just the tank line is struggling here. Frost has already been taking so much damage. Now isolated from his team, trying to pull back. Tato may be able to remech here. They haven't been able to kill that one yet, but PHOENiX coming up on ultimates. The cart's still pushing. New Paradigm's last stand begins now.
And the support ultimate's coming online now, as are others. Unknown with the grab. He needs to find this.
It's got to be a huge one as well. Waiting for an angle. Can throw down from on top. There it is. Pacial answers with Transcendence. They can't combo it up with a self-destruct. Earth Shatter, it only really gets Eined. He's going to be rested.
That's big.
Oh, but they can't stop the self-destruct. Victorious, living up to his namesake off the back of that play, and this time it's going to be his highlight reel. Vendetta's had his day, and now it's Victorious's turn. His New Paradigm crumble. PHOENiX roll on through in what is maybe our most commanding and surprising 4-0 yet.
And in a group where we had not seen a single 4-0 up until tonight, the previous match, Hong Kong Attitude, the first place team in Group B versus the number 6 team in Group B. That's a 4-0. You would expect this one not so much based on results that we had seen. PHOENiX having lost to even Global Esports Pantheon earlier in week 2, which, to be fair, Global Esports are a great team. They're currently 2nd place, but you just did not expect a team like PHOENiX that looked like they were struggling throughout the season, had only picked up 1 win prior to this match, and now just ever so slightly closer to really not only securing a place in the playoffs, but a very good place too.
I mean, they look like they just got their stuff together here, really. I mean, if any team has really kind of turned things around in the last couple of weeks, as we often say teams sorely need to do at this point of the tournament, it's definitely looking like PHOENiX. And again, we consider they fit.
How many Rise from the Ashes jokes do we want to make here?
Yeah. I mean, it's the color's blue. It's anyway. Blue Flames, whatever. That's too edgy for me. But the point is, they are going to play Giants next week. I know we've already touched on that a number of times here, but again, you've got to say, after that performance against a team that was technically above them in the standings, having had some competitive, you know, close but no cigar kind of performances early in the tournament, that's a huge pickup for Cyclone Coupling. They ought to be able to take out Giant, depending on how the rest of these things fall. Yeah, PHOENiX, they ought to be able to take out Giant. Depending on how the rest of this falls, they could easily be finding themselves sitting pretty in this 3rd place spot here, having, prior to that one match, actually been on the cusp of being eliminated.
And I'll be honest here, there's a 2-map difference between them and Global Esports Pantheon right now, which means if they get the 4-0 again next week, which wouldn't be impossible based on the performance that they've just given now, then you have a case where maybe New Paradigm, also in a similar fashion, step it up in their final week of gameplay, knowing that there's one potential last chance for them to sneak by into the top 4 of Cyclone Coupling. Do not beat Hong Kong Attitude, which is likely. There is a potential here. PHOENiX can take number 2 if Global Esports Pantheon either lose to New Paradigm, or, in fact, they would have to lose to New Paradigm to get a 3-2, and lose with a severe enough map differential that PHOENiX closes the gap in that 0-2, in that 2 differential right now.
Now that's one other thing that we do need to consider here, of course, is the other side of this match tonight, which has been New Paradigm. Suffering that 0-4 loss is about as tough as it gets. I mean, it's literally as bad as a loss can get in this format, short of, I believe, a full forfeit. But at least in this, you got to play and maybe you've learned a thing or two, because they come up against Hong Kong Attitude. You saw it in the standings there. Cyclone Coupling are ahead of them. Cyclone Coupling themselves do have a tough match coming up next week. My apologies, it's New Paradigm play Global Esports and Cyclone Coupling play Hong Kong Attitude. So both have a difficult matchup ahead of them, but even if both go down 0-4 at this point, it's New Paradigm who go home.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. So for Cyclone Coupling, they're actually still in a decent spot. I mean, this is why Group B is just totally
changed things for them.
We don't know what's going to happen here, because now we talk about 2 and 3 potentially not being a good enough scoreline. However, tiebreakers come into effect. Once tiebreakers come to effect, 2 and 3 is gonna likely be the score that somebody gets through on. Again, unless Cyclone Coupling actually finish 3 and 2, which is seemingly very difficult, it should be 2-3 Cyclone Coupling, potentially 2-3 New Paradigm, going down to map differential.